Hello everybody, and welcome to Guide by Example. Today we are going to be tackling Solo, No Prep, Chambers of Xeric Challenge Mode. For my inventory, I am utilizing Max Mage with a Sanguinesti, Max Melee, and Max Range. This can be done with worse gear. It's important to note I have Arania Boots, Raincore, and Lightbearer. We are also doing Molgoakirby's Tightrope Skip. You do not need purple suites, they are helpful. However, we are going to be using the Arceus spellbook, which is extremely important, but let's get right into it. Alrighty, so this first room is Tekton. Tekton is very simple. All you're going to do is step back every 3 ticks. There are 3 different types of attacks. One, he will swing forward with his sword and lunge at you. The other, he will swing his hammer. Both of those attacks are 3 ticks. You will step out and immediately step back in when that happens. However, when he does a big swing with his sword, you need to burn a tick when you step back, because that attack is 4 ticks. This attack is 3 ticks, 4 ticks, 3 ticks, 3 ticks, 4 ticks, 3 ticks, 4 ticks, 3 ticks, 3 ticks, 3 ticks, 3 ticks, 4 ticks, 3 ticks, 3 ticks. As you can see here, Tekton steps a tile back, which this will allow us to get 2 hits in on his walk back to the anvil. Another good thing you could do here is the runaround method, where instead of stepping back every time he attacks on a 3-tick cycle, you instead run around him in a circle. There are many guides of this on the internet, however, I think it is better to utilize this method. It is important to note that if you are going for the GM time, you ideally want a 1 down on Tekton and potentially a 2 down. After Tekton is slain, now is the time to eat your angler. Pick up the prayer enhance, take a sip, drop the prayer enhance, fill up on prayer, pick up the revitalization, and also pick up an overload. From here we can move on to the next room, crabs. Don't worry about your missing HP from Tekton, as the Sanguinesti can help refill that HP, or in the future you could utilize purple sweets or brews to bring your HP back. It is not that important at this moment. I'm assuming you already know how to do the crabs room, but if you do not, the goal is to hit the crab with a specific style which will color it, and then that ball that hits the crab will be that color. You want to hit the purple crystal with a green ball. Following that, you want to hit the cyan crystal with a red ball. You want to hit the yellow crystal with a cyan ball. And finally, you want to hit the black crystal with a white ball. Follow here to see how I take care of this room, but I start out in the middle, then move to cyan, and then come back to the middle to finish off the room. I don't necessarily do anything particularly unique for Ice Demon. The main goal here is to grab a tinderbox and a bronze axe, chop tinder and place it into the braziers. The important thing here is you fill 3 braziers. Fill 1, then 2, then 3. Your goal here is to take down that ice demon as fast as possible. Once he comes down, you will want to take a sip of your overload and prepare to dump 2 Dragon Warhammer specs. Now that Ice Demon is falling, be prepared to hit your 2 Dragon Warhammers. It's important to note that there is a strategy here where you can utilize the Magic Cape in order to switch to the standard spellbook to utilize Fire Strike, and then following, switch back to a different spellbook that you plan on using. That will save a lot of time, however, a T-bow does just fine here, especially if you do hit Dragon Warhammer specs. Do I need to hit those fancy flicks on Rigger? No, you don't necessarily. However, since we only bring 1 prayer restore into the raid and then drop it, and then only have 1 prayer revite up until Vanguards, without these flicks on Ice Demon and Shamans, there is the potential that you do run out of prayer during Vanguards, which can be extremely bad. So I would recommend to prayer flick your offensive prayers if you can, but it's not a big deal if you can't. You could even swap out a brew for a restore at the beginning of the raid and carry that through to Vanguards, as sometimes Vanguards does not take that many brews. This is a very simple room. Stand 1 tile space away from any wall in order to have a shaman jump, and the main goal is to trap the shaman on a wall so you can turn off your prayers and flick your offensive prayers with little supply usage in this room. In order to dodge a poison splat, you need to move 3 tiles away from the current square you are standing on. I like to space this out, so on 1 tile that I stand on, the shaman can jump, and the other tile, he will not jump. While we run over to Vanguards, now is a good time to eat your purple sweets or get your HP up. This part of the run is by far the most challenging up to this point. Vanguards with little supplies is very hard, along with Molgoakirby's Tightrope Skip can end a lot of runs. You don't need to reset on a failure of the Tightrope Skip, but you can. Vanguards without any damage is very interesting. Your goal here is to keep all the Vanguards within 40% HP of each other. An interesting mechanic here with the Ranger is once you're done attacking him and he has no more HP before he rotates, you can walk under him to avoid all damage from the Ranger and attack another Vanguard. As you can see here, I pulled the meleeer to the east of where I was standing. This sets up the meleeer in a safe spot, so once he does not have any more HP, I'm able to attack another Vanguard. Similarly, if you pull the meleeer to the west, you can also safe spot and instead attack the Ranger rather than the Major. I am taking advantage of standing under the Ranger here. It is possible to prayer flick multiple Vanguards here. With Vanguards, their attack damage calculates as soon as their animation starts. So say you have a Major and a Ranger on you, you can prayer flick between the two and take little damage. Your main priority in this room is whenever you rotate to a new Vanguard, you want to prioritize having an area where you can hit 2 Vanguards once one runs out of HP. So for example, a Ranger where you can stand under, or the meleeer where you can drag him and put him in a safe spot so you can attack another Vanguard. You never want to be standing around doing no damage to no Vanguards. Once Vanguards are dead, pick up the Prayer Enhance, take a sip and drop it. Top up on your Prayer Revite, and pick up as many brews and revitalizations as possible. Once you have an inventory full, go ahead and move on to the next room. Ignore the Elder, Kodai, and Twisted Potions. Later we will pick one up, but they are not necessary here. There's really not much to say about Thieving, other than use a Bat Finder plugin in order to obtain the bats. Bats are useful, they're not necessary, but I like to grab them. You want to keep a relatively low inventory in terms of supplies. Vespula is a no supply room. We are going to need to pick up a lot of stuff from Vespula. Furthermore, do not forget to grab your orb or your Phoenix necklace, as we will Tightrope Skip right after this room. Now it's time for Vespula. Since we sipped a Prayer Enhance, we're going to abuse that in order to use no supplies in this room. First, you want to stand east of the East Larva. Immediately when entering the room, make sure to hit at the portal before going to the East Tile, as you want to make sure no larvas get triggered. Once this happens, you want to click on the portal, and once you see your XP drop, run back to the tile. One tick into that run, 2 tiles away from your starting position, you want to turn on your prayer. as if you do it any earlier, you could risk running out of prayer points and not redemption during Vespula. I'm utilizing a T-bow here, but ideally you would like to use a shadow. A mistake I made here was mistiming my overload, and I did not bring another overload to use it during Vespula. You could, here, instead, utilize an overload during Thieving before Vespula, or overload during Vespula. I made the decision not to do either, and it resulted in slowing down my run. As you can see here, I took my sweet time hitting that portal, and Vespula triggered a larva. The setup for Tightrope Skip is very interesting, and I'm not going to go into excruciating detail about how it works. Rather, I will link Molgoakirby's guide in the description. It is important that we have a lot of run energy, a little bit of prayer, and 1 HP. So I'm going to grab the supplies from Vespula, bring my HP down to 1, organize my inventory so an Eat and Phoenix necklace are easily accessible. Now, I am going to run away from the tile that we use for Vespula, and on the same tick, click on my Rapid Heal. Once I am rapid healed and running, during that run, I am going to utilize Redemption. So as you can see, I lost a tick during the run, so I'm going to restart the run for safety. Once we enter Tightrope, I will need to drop an item, as immediately during that run I will be clicking on the rope to cross. During the cross I will regenerate to 2 HP, and all the ones will cause me to Redemption. I will click back to the rope, and during the tick on my run back I will eat food and put on a Phoenix necklace, not burning any ticks, while crossing back on the rope. If my Phoenix necklace is still on me during the cross back, I know I have done the Tightrope Skip. This is very tricky, as there are very little pieces of content in the game that require you to do many actions in one tick, and in this instance, it's 3 actions in a single tick. There is an easier method to Tightrope Skip where you can bring 2 Phoenix necklaces, however, I have never practiced it, and this saves an inventory slot. From here, I will bank my mage gear, I will take out as many brews as possible, as well as overload and use my bats and prayer enhance. I will bank any items that aren't necessary, make sure to grab my pickaxe and salve, and make sure we are topped up to go into the next room. We are going into Guardians. It is not important to refill your HP, we are not venging Vasa. We have thralls, so there is no reason to recover HP at this point. In order to do Guardians without taking any stamina usage, we'll need to employ a method where we step back and then step 1 tile forward walking. After our animation is paused on the next tile, we will then click to the Guardian and immediately click back. This is the simple cycle to not use any stamina for Guardians. Vasa is very easy once you get the hang of it. Once we move into Vasa, trigger the teleportation. After you are teleported, take 2 sips of brew or eat a bat. Spam click on Vasa. Once you see your XP drop on Vasa, immediately run away and prepare to hit the crystal. I bring D-Claws here because I have a scythe. Use 1 D-Claw spec per crystal, and then finish out scything it. If you do not have a scythe, a fang works amazingly here. I highly recommend. When Vasa is done with its crystals, you can move to the wall in order for a Vasa to not throw any boulders. Sometimes you have to stand 1 tile away from the wall, sometimes it's directly on the wall. In this position, Vasa will never throw boulders at you. That was a quick Vasa. Let's grab all the supplies. Make sure to grab at least 1 Twisted. I really like the Mystic Room. Here, make sure to put on your range gear with the salve. We're going to move into this corner position, and we're going to drag the Major in. This will set up a corner safe spot on the Major. He will essentially be looking at us with melee and never trigger his mage attack. We're going to abuse this throughout this room, but this is the first instance. It could be argued that Shadow with max mage is better on Mystics here, and I would agree, I just don't have it. If that is the case, bring your mage setup and bank your salve. This trap is extremely interesting. We can essentially get both of the majors to get melee aggro on us. We can pull them into this position in the corner where both are targeting with melee and can never mage us, essentially turning this room into little damage. I want to say 0 damage, but you'll still take a little bit from melee hits and the occasional mage hit. I tend to focus the major that's on the outside of these two because this one often will mage me. If that becomes the case, you can step under the green major. This is a good time to make sure you are topped up on HP. We are going to perform Tendril Skip. In order to do this, after the Mystic dies, you need to stand against the wall. When the emblem on the floor disappears, you immediately click to pass through the chamber. As soon as you pass through the chamber, you click through and you should skip through the tendrils. Make sure to grab a bronze axe, we are definitely chopping. Here I equip my Torva and my Sanguinesti. I also make sure to definitely pray Augury. Augury will help us against the mage hits from Big Muta, while Torva will help mitigate the range and melee hits. When Muta is close to you, you need to pray melee. When he is far away, pray range. Otherwise, we are going to chop. As soon as you see the XP drop from the chop, you need to click on Muta. We are essentially doing tick manipulation. When our staff hits Muta and you get that XP drop, click back to the tree. As soon as you see the XP drop for woodcutting, click back to Muta. Repeat this process in order to tick manipulate and quickly bring down the tree. You can include brew sips in between chops and mage hits on tree chopping. Here I am stepping under after every hit and stepping out during my hit. This is to reduce the amount of times Muta is hitting me. Otherwise, you can bring a Shadow at this point and it does do more DPS than a Scythe. Prepare for Big Muta. This is why we brought our Twisted. If you are not overloaded, this is a good time to use your Twisted rather than Revites. Muta can be easily handled with Tick Eats. every time the ranged projectile is thrown out. If you eat during that ranged projectile travel path, you will tick eat. It's a little harder during mage hits, however, tick eats are the savior to this part of Muta. I don't exercise them quite as much here, however, you could solo this room with just purple sweets if you know how to tick eat correctly. Pick up every supply from Big Muta. We are at the end of the raid. Now for the most complex part of the raid, Olm. Make sure to eat as many purple sweets as possible to get your HP as high as possible before we enter the Olm room. If you do not have purple sweets, don't worry about eating brews right away. Here we're going to grab all of our gear. We need max mage, max melee, and max range. Bring your dragon warhammer. We need an overload, a prayer enhance, a stamina, our purple sweets. And then following that you can bring 2 revitalizations that can get you through, however I feel more comfortable with 3 and less brews. Bring 3 revites or 2 revites and fill out the rest of your inventory with brews. Here I'm going to pre-overload since I am at a surplus of supplies. When we get into the room, if you have a 2-handed mage or melee weapon, drop a potion on the ground. Next, dump 2 Dragon Warhammer specs on the melee hand. Then, we will run into position for the mage setup and summon a mage thrall. The name of the game here is turning Olm's head properly without taking damage. We're going to run to specific tiles in order to manipulate Olm's head to turn when we want it and not take any damage. This is called the 3-0 mage cycle on Olm Mage Hand. I am going to run to the left mid tile, and when this happens, since I have a thrall, Olm will always look to the left. As soon as he looks left, I'm going to run to the middle tile, and I'm also going to execute a hit. When he turns mid, I'm going to run to the far right side, and on the same tick that Olm turns his head to the right side, I will click on the Mage Hand to get a hit and start sprinting. From there, I'll run back to left and repeat this cycle. And eventually, you can turn off your protection prayer, as you will always turn the hand due to the thrall. The way that the head always turns to the left is due to the damage that is done by the Mage Hand. However, if your thrall hits a 0 and you also hit a 0 with your Sanguinesti or Shadow, Olm will not turn to the left and instead look mid. In this situation, you will need to run to the far left side in order to force Olm's head to turn to the left. This results in a loss of hits. In the case you need to run to the left side, make sure to flick on range in case you take a hit. It is also important to note if you are utilizing a Sanguinesti to be on accurate and not long range. We will now be executing the 3-1 melee cycle on melee hand with a 5-tick weapon. In order to get into this cycle, we will need to be on the left middle tile. And when Olm turns to the mid, on the same tick we need to click on the hand. This will execute our first tick. We then need to step into the right side where he will turn to the right. When we execute our next hit, we need to step 1 tile to the right and then back to the thumb position. When we hit on thumb, we need to run back to the left mid tile and burn a single tick. Once that tick is burned, he will turn left and we need to execute the same cycle where we click on his melee hand. I got poison here and I'm not necessarily equipped to deal with a 5-tick weapon and a poison walk, so in this case I just run from left to right and make sure to turn the head without taking any damage. This was a very sloppy example of 3-1. The following hands will be a lot better showcase of how to do 3-1. I think part of this run goes to show that you don't need to be perfect on Olm to execute a deathless solo no prep CM. Here, just dodge the crystals and make sure to move back to the other side so you're prepared to dump your next 2 Dragon Warhammers. We will then follow and get in the same cycle we were in last time for Mage Hand, and then move on to Melee Hand. Just remember to keep the head turning, be on the lookout for if Olm turns to mid, and make sure that your Mage Thrall is always active. I try to use 1 SAM dose per wave of hands and then 1 final dose for the head phase. Otherwise, you can utilize purple sweets to keep your run energy up, but in some cases it can cause you to lose hits. Do not forget to stay overloaded and prayer enhanced throughout the whole fight. The thing that makes this a 3-to-1 cycle is we do 3 hits for every 1 hit he does. If Olm does 2 attacks to us, we need to execute a 2-to-1, where we do the hit when we run over when he turns his head, and then we do the second hit when we immediately run back to mid instead of executing the 3rd hit on thumb. This will put him back into the 3-to-1 cycle, and following that, you need to do 3-to-1 every time after. Keep in mind to burn the tick when you step to mid. You can summon Melee Thrall here to ensure that Olm always turns his head to the right to the melee hand. If you get falling crystals, try to move a tile every time. You can also click a tile behind where you are hitting, and that will sometimes dodge the crystal at hand. Just make sure to not take too much damage from these falling crystals. When I am doing Melee Hand, I am most of the time praying Mage. That is due to having Torva. With a high range defense, we can often ignore the range hits completely. There is some tech where you can switch into Masori before he hits in order to negate the mage hits as well. However, with Torva, you should be fine to just pray Mage. I would even argue that with Bandos, you could just pray Mage as well. On the final phase of the hands, I like to focus melee right away. I like to get this hand low, and any HP we lose during Melee Hand, we can easily recover during Mage Hand with Sanguinesti. Of course, this could be the opposite if you bring Blood Fury and Shadow, where instead you could regen your HP lost from the Mage Method while killing the Melee Hand. Yes, Olm is definitely punishing me. This is a good example of turning Olm to the left in order to negate damage. When we are stepping out to the right and then back to thumb, what this is doing is skipping flame walls. Since we do not bring lunars or waters, we do not have any way to break out of a flame wall. It is important to be moving on the tick that Olm executes his attack. I feel like my melee hands have been extremely sloppy within this video, and with that I would like to include examples in the description that will showcase how to learn 3-to-1 with a 5-tick weapon, 1-to-0 with a 5-tick weapon, 4-to-1 with a 4-tick weapon, and 3-to-1 with a 4-tick weapon. Please follow these in order to see a better methodology of getting into cycle on Melee Hand. Now that his Melee Hand is in one-hit range, we are going to transition into working on the Mage Hand, where we execute the 3-to-1 Mage Hand cycle. It's the same as normal, however, once this hand is about to die, I prefer to kill Melee Hand first, as killing Melee Hand first will negate the chance for Melee Hand to ever do healing after Mage Hand dies. So, we would like to get Mage Hand low, then kill Melee Hand, and then finally kill the Mage Hand. This negates any specials from happening. I cannot stress how important the Mage Thrall is. Now, it is finally time to transition out of the hand phase. Kill the Melee Hand, kill the Mage Hand, and prepare for the head phase. This phase is pretty simple, as each time Olm will turn his head to the right or left. As soon as he does that, on the same exact tick, we are going to run to the opposite side. This will cause him to turn mid, and then following the opposite side. During this run, you will want to execute a hit in the middle on the side that currently Olm is not looking at. So if I'm on the right side and running to left, I am going to want to hit him in mid on the left side. And then, once he turns his head to the left, I will click back to the right side. Something I do here is I alternate 2 tiles, so I will move up or down 2 tiles every time I do a pass from left to right. This helps me avoid crystals, but you obviously need to be on the lookout the whole time while crystals are falling, as any damage done at this point can be absolutely detrimental. It is important to note that you can get a hit from each pass to left to right or right to left. Try to get a hit in each time to do maximum DPS. Make sure you stay overloaded if you have the bruise. You could also bring a Twisted from earlier at this point if you do not feel comfortable overloading with the amount of bruise you have. Something I did here is I drank a stamina dose on accident in the middle of Olm. This caused me not to have a stamina dose for head phase. So with that being in mind, I am eating purple sweets, but keeping in mind a tick delay so I do not lose any hits while running. There's a lot of downtime here, so eating purple sweets is easy to do without losing any ticks. Something I didn't do here, but you could do, you could easily summon a Thrall to gain more DPS during this phase. Will it be purple? Nah, never lucky. Probably some shitty loot. But, it is a new PB. And through all this, I will say, thanks for watching, thanks for coming on this journey, and hopefully you learned something. You could easily get a GM time with this route if there's a little bit of optimization. Something I do want to say is, I know this is not perfect. I try to do my best to explain things as they make sense to me. If there's anything you think I could improve on, let me know. I would love to make something in the future to showcase my progress on how I've changed and how I do CMs. Otherwise, I'm going to continue going for GM and utilize the methods I've set forth in order to achieve it. Let me know what you think. Please drop a like, comment, and subscribe, and be on the lookout for future guides by example.